Tom, I guess we can start with the announcement, literally, I don't even think 24 hours later, from François Legault that he will not be taking part in the English language debate. I'm looking for your reaction to that.
Well, I think he's taken off the gloves with the English-speaking community. At least it's clear. And I guess it's the middle finger that stuck in the glove the longest. But I can't believe that something that was taken as an absolutely normal part of the election process, having the English-speaking community present, having them listened to, having them spoken to by all of the party leaders in an organized debate. These have been, by the way, just sterling exercises. They've been great. And all of a sudden, Legault is just showing his true colors. He wants nothing to do with it. The Parti Québécois, by the way, would of course have showed up if Legault had been there. They weren't going to be out Angloed by the CAQ. So of course they said, me too, I'm not coming. But I mean, the real fault has to be laid right on the doorstep of François Legault, and it's a slap in the face to the English-speaking community, of course. But he doesn't care anymore, obviously. That's almost a million Quebecers that he's telling to take a hike, not to use stronger language.
And he was talking about winning some seats for the CAQ on the island beyond the ones they have. I mean,
well, good luck with that.
Yeah.
You know, good luck to somebody like Christopher Skeet after this too. You know, he's in Fabreville and Laval, and you know he's going to have to try to explain to the people that he wants to vote for him when he goes door to door why his party doesn't think that they're even worth the time of day.
Tom, has anything like this ever happened before?
Well, François Legault's breaking all the records. I mean, you know, let's just look at Bill 96. I was listening, by the way, to a lot of the callers, and whenever I do this in French media, I don't want to fall into the trap of only talking about CEGEPs, although it was a catastrophe, but the catastrophe was largely thanks to you-know-who in the Liberal Party, you know, and what I call the two Davids, Alain David and David Birnbaum. So, I mean, let's move past that. But I try to steer them where Aaron was going just before when he was talking about it, which is, could you please actually read the search and seizure provisions? They're outrageous. And then they take away the Charter of Rights. So the admonition in the Charter of Rights, the rule against unreasonable search and seizure, goes out the window. And you can have these bureaucrats from the OQLF walking into your business and telling you, give me your computer, give me your phone. You know, it's completely bonkers. By the way, this stuff's all going to be challenged immediately once the thing's enacted. But it's not going to change anything about the fact that it's been so insulting every step of the way. And it's even anybody who's just concerned about human rights, about individual liberties, about the right to have your own stuff and not to have a government inspector come in and look at it. It's unbelievable.
I would love for you to comment about the fact that, and I'm harping on it a bit today, but you know how these things burn my butt. Gilles Proulx and Richard Martineau both saying that we're francophobes, so they've taken it a step beyond angry phones, and that we're just going to be out there screaming into the wind tomorrow, basically.
Well, I had my chance to debate with Martineau. I mean, I do a radio show with him, hit with him, and Jean-François Lisée every day. So, I mean, I have a slightly different approach than yours. I mean, I don't rail against other people's opinions. I use my opinions and my ability to fight back and debate to take them on. Sometimes we even agree on some things, but other times we have wonderful set-tos. But I think that that's the way to move these things forward. I don't begrudge anybody else their point of view. They can say whatever they want about me. I don't feel slighted by it because I know it doesn't apply.
I like that a lot. That helped. Thank you. I feel like I just had a little mini therapy session there, Tom.
But that's you, Tom. For everybody else, all the other Anglos hearing this who might be appalled by the fact that there's still people out there calling us names, I mean, that's just kind of rubbing it in for no apparent reason. Why do that?
Well, for no apparent reason, as you just perfectly said. It's just, selling papers, selling coffee, getting people riled up and listening to them. But, I mean, they don't have a monopoly on this stuff on the French side. I was listening to some of the callers. Some of the remarks were pretty hot under the collar as well. So let people, let a thousand flowers bloom. Let people have their own opinions. But at the end of the day, as long as you can fight back intelligently and say, actually, because when I talk about Bill 96, I always invite people to actually read it. I say, there are provisions in there that remove the guarantees for equality of English and French before the courts in Quebec. And, of course, Simon-Jeannin Barrette's going a step further. He's trying to overrule the Chief Justice because she is in charge of determining the criteria necessary to be named a judge in Quebec, and he's trying to remove that from her. I did a conference on this with the Bar Association last week. It's completely illegal, and it's, of course, going to be challenged. But it could actually imperil the stability of the whole judicial system because a lot of those decisions would get thrown out. So this is the type, he's like a kid playing with matches in a storehouse full of dynamite. And this is the guy who's supposed to be our justice minister and represents stability in our society. What he's doing is clearly, patently unconstitutional. By the way, Aaron, has David Lametti ever given you that legal opinion saying that François Legault could use Bill 96
Yeah, no, we're still waiting,
the
Tom.
BNA Act unilaterally? He never got it to you,
Still
did he?
waiting for that follow-up to that question.
Well, you and I should maybe, go have a coffee in Verdun, his riding one day, and just sort of talk to everybody on the street and say, has Lametti ever given you his legal opinion saying that François Legault could take away your language rights under the Constitution unilaterally? And the real problem, of course, is, and that was one of your callers again, saying, look, at some point, somebody in Ottawa has got to stand up on this stuff. Because this is the Canadian Constitution. This is equality provisions with regard to English and French under that Constitution. And at the time it was O'Toole. Now it's, of course, nobody. It's Candice Bergen. I mean, the Conservatives don't have a permanent leader yet. Trudeau is just throwing in the towel on this stuff. He doesn't want to stand up for rights, and I think that he should be called out on it more than he is being.
So let me take this playbook, right? No one on the federal side is doing anything, and they realize there's an election a couple of months away, and if they do something right now, it'll be used by the CAQ to simply drive that nationalist vote even farther. So they're waiting for the election to be called and for it to be over. Assuming the CAQ wins, do they finally stand up at that point and say, hey, wait a sec, let's take a look at these two bills. They, in fact, violate not only the Quebec Charter, but the Canadian Charter as well. Is that when we're going to see it?
I think it's even worse at that point, because then Legault, assuming that he wins, because it looks like the polls are telling us that that's a pretty strong possibility, although it's not over yet. But you can just imagine Legault saying, what a bunch of hypocrites. The whole time during the campaign, they never mentioned this once, and now that the election's over, they're doing this. So, I mean, you've got to stand up straight on these things. Stand up straight, say, this is not on, you can't do this. And by the way, we know that it requires a resolution of the House of Commons and of the Senate, because when we went from Protestant boards and Catholic boards over to French and English boards, guess what? We had to change the Constitution, and you needed those resolutions of both houses of Parliament. It's written right in the 1982 Constitution. There's no opinion about this. There's no argument about this, and yet Trudeau won't stand up for the Canadian Constitution. That's the basic problem here. And by the way, I do think that Dominique Anglade deserves a tip of the hat for showing up tomorrow. She's going to scrub. She'll take questions, and I think she deserves to be acknowledged for that.
Can I just ask one last thing? You said, so the government's not standing up. Do you think any of the parties out there now, NDP, Conservative, whoever they would be, would in fact stand up to this and have weighed in already?
No.
Right.
I mean, Singh's got one guy in Quebec, and he's probably been convinced that he's going to lose that one member. Trudeau is terrified of the issue. I don't think the constitutional subtleties are something that Mr. Trudeau spends a lot of time being concerned about. And with regard to the Conservatives, again, I mean, they blow hot and cold. One day, let's take the supposed front-runner, Poilievre. One day he says he doesn't really care about Bill 21. He wishes Quebec would change it, but he's not going to fight it. And then the next day he tries to say, no, I'm opposed to it. I mean, he's said three completely different things on Bill 21, so he can't even know where he is on that. But on 96, they're not even getting the question. I guess they will get the question in French in Laval next week, which is interesting because in that hall there will be a lot of Anglos for the French debate in Laval, because it's a very multicultural community up there. That's where my provincial riding was for 12 and a half years. So it's going to be interesting to watch that one as well.
Just to bring it back to Quebec parties here for a second, I really take issue with the fact that Quebec Solidaire, we were speaking with Gabriel Nadeau-Dubois yesterday, and he says this is a very flawed bill. And there's tons of things in which he doesn't agree in it that he doesn't agree with, and yet they're going to vote for it.
Well, exactly. So how can you go on an English radio station and tell people what they essentially want to hear, right? Oh, this is a flawed bill. Oh, thank you. We agree with you. So you're going to vote against it? No, we're going to vote for it. It doesn't even make any sense.
No, it doesn't.
And it's supposed to be a party based on principle. So, I mean, and by the way, on a personal level, I really like Gabriel Nadeau-Dubois and Manon Mancé. I think they're both tremendous human beings. But, I mean, on this sort of stuff, come on, fish or cut bait. You're against it, then be against it. You can't say, oh, yeah, it's a real dog's breakfast, but, hey, we're not going to have a fight about this after all. We're only politicians. We're just going to go along. It doesn't make any sense.
No,
All right, I want to touch on what happened to Jagmeet Singh. I know we can't play much of it back because it's just so vulgar, but he's out there in Peterborough, Ontario yesterday, and I looked at this when I first saw it, not having understood or heard the story, and thinking this is exactly what I'd expect in American politics. It's certainly not in Canadian politics. I mean, it's embarrassing to have to watch what he had to endure. I wonder what you thought about that, Tom.
Well, first of all, it's totally unacceptable and good for Singh. And he had a good answer, by the way, because he's very strong in martial arts. And he goes, look, I would have been able to take care of myself, but he says that's not the point. He says if this becomes the norm in Canadian politics, lots of really good people are just going to say, I'm going to give this a pass. I don't want to get involved in politics. And I think that was the right thing to be talking about, top of mind. You know, this is going to discourage a lot of people. The crazies who used to get together in chat groups and discuss their conspiracy theories and how much they hated the government, now they're coming out of their computers. They showed up by the hundreds with their trucks on Parliament Hill. The government was tied into knots for weeks on end. And this is the most recent manifestation. This is the head of the third party. The fourth, I'm sorry, they're actually behind the bloc in terms of number of seats. This is the head of the fourth party in Parliament at an event in the community, doing his job as a leader of an opposition party, being attacked physically. And now, first of all, on the purely mechanical level, they're going to have to start providing proper security to the head of all parties.
Yeah.
They have none right now. When I was leader of the opposition, there had been an event. It's an incident. I went to the RCMP, tried to get some help. And they said, no, we only take care of the Prime Minister. We don't take care of... I was the leader of the official office.
Oh, boy.
Nothing. So now they're going to obviously have to take stock of this and start providing some proper security.
Sure hope so. And good for Jagmeet Singh for not getting, sort of more involved in it than he was. I felt very, very bad watching what he had to endure.
Act.
Yeah,
Jagmeet Singh is a class act, and I'm not surprised he was able to weather that storm.
Well, and he tells us, unfortunately, it's not like he hasn't dealt with it before and he won't have to deal with it again, sadly.
Yeah.